Hey everybody, welcome to Biz Of Show. My name is Levi Walker.
And I'm Candace Donahue.
And we are in Vancouver actually taping a whole slew of interviews today just for you guys for Biz Of Show Live, where we go back in time and we talk to all the amazing people that we've worked with or our paths have crossed over the years and pick their brains to find out how they survived show business and how they created their own lanes.
Well, today we're talking to Brent Barrett.
Brent Barrett.
Wait, we have to say Broadway legend, Brent Barrett.
He's pretty amazing. How did we get here? What were we doing this week?
Okay, so Levi flew in from Vegas to Seattle, Washington. Yes, yep. Land of rain and coffee. And so he decided then that we needed to go to Vancouver to work.
Well, the thing is that Candace has got like these 2 kids and a crazy life and 2 jobs, and she teaches voice and she's the best voice teacher in the world. Anyway, so we literally, I knew we had to get her out of the country in order so we could just focus, because literally no one can call us here, which is the strangest feeling in the world. So on Wednesday night, we went to see, pass me the poster. We went to see Todrick Hall. We went to see his new, the Forbidden Tour, okay? Now listen, I gotta tell you, are you a fan now?
I'm totally a fan. Like, if I was just minimally a fan, I'm wholeheartedly a fan now.
Well,
wholeheartedly.
I mean, this guy is just astonishing.
I am dumbfounded. Like, I sat in the audience and I went, I don't know how he's doing all of this.
It's so true. Not only is how he's doing all this, but literally like every single decision made like in that show was made by him, and he's the star. And he's like got composure. He's got a memory of an elephant. But I mean, he was just doing, this is one of the reasons why we love him. He was just doing Chicago in New York. He was playing Billy Flynn. And in his dressing room, he wrote 30 new songs. 30 songs. While he was doing a Broadway show. Most people think, oh, I'm gonna get to Broadway, I'm gonna sit back in my dressing room and be like, yeah, I'm here, bitches. But the reality is that that's actually the opportunity for you to actually keep producing, keep creating, find other things to do.
He is just so creative that he's just looking to the next thing. He's here and looking forward, right?
There's something about how he just makes a decision and goes with it. And I think that, because there's 75,000 other decisions that have to be made. And he wrote all this music, and then he created, I think it was like something like, I don't know, it was an hour-and-a-half movie on YouTube. You must go to Todrick Hall on YouTube and watch his it's called new video, I guess it would be called, or a movie.
It's like a behind-the-scenes movie, a documentary.
Okay, well the documentary on Netflix is amazing. That's called Behind the Curtain. This is Todrick Hall's Forbidden. This is his newest release. So go to Netflix and watch his documentary, and you'll understand why we're obsessed with him, because he is killing the game. He is creating his own life, creating his own career, and we're just fans of that. And if you're trying to step into this business, or if you're trying to like figure out where to go with your life and your career, if you're waiting for the phone to ring and that next gig to come in, you got to watch Todrick Hall, because he will inspire you to create something new and how to take like any downtime.
I don't know where he's finding it. But I mean, just creativity coming out of every pore. And business, and trying to figure out how to do this thing and just stringing it together, but yet he's taking time to be with his fans and pour his heart and soul into making a difference and a change, and being bold enough to stand out there and saying, this is who I am.
And I'll tell you, we love him so much that we were like, we want to meet him. So we went and bought posters, because if you want to meet Todrick Hall at his show, you have to buy a poster. And you know what? I was and it was his birthday, but I'm going to support just anything that he does, because I know what he's doing and how hard he's working at it. So we bought a poster and we went and got to meet him, and because we wanted to just kind of do a face-to-face. So we met him, and hopefully we will have him on Biz Of Show one day, because we want to pick his brain and hopefully teach you guys how to kind of rock your business world. But we need to get into this interview. So we've got this really great interview with a really wonderful friend of mine, Brent Barrett. If you don't know who Brent Barrett is, then you haven't really studied any musical theater history.
You need to Google him right now. Go to
Google.
Lord Google. Google knows it.
He
knows him.
And Wikipedia, he's got a really good Wikipedia page, but this guy's done a ton of stuff. I remember as a kid, I was first inspired by him, and I didn't even know I was going to be friends with him. And when I saw him on the Tony Awards, I think it was 1991 or 92, 1990, somewhere around in there, with Grand Hotel on the Tony Awards with Michael Jeter.
Alive in the 90s?
No, I wasn't alive in the 90s. But so anyway, he's been inspiring me for, almost 30 years, I guess. But he's just brilliant, and he's got some really great things to say. So we're going to just jump right into the interview. How does that sound?
Yeah, that sounds great.
We are here today with somebody who's actually incredibly special to me. He's a wonderful friend, and also I always like to call him my favorite little Broadway legend, Mr. Brent Barrett. Hi, Brent.
Hey, hi, Levi. Hi, Candace.
Hi.
Listen, God, I don't know. Yeah, but I mean, that's sweet. That's sweet of you.
Well, I think there's like this phenomenon of like in LA, like there are all these like young dancers who are like teaching master classes just because they were on like So You Think You Can Dance, and nobody really understands what a master is or like who should be teaching a master class. But it also encompasses with like legends. Like if you have to like accomplish a long list of, really great projects that you work on.
Accomplishments, exactly.
To be a legend, and you've accomplished that.
I have. I look at a lot of young performers who just are in their 20s and 30s and doing master classes. I'm going, wow, that's really brave.
Right.
It's
right.
Like, okay, well, wow. People always ask me, do you want to be, did you ever want to be a director? And it's like, no, I don't really want to tell people what to do. It's like, I'm very happy kind of doing what I do. You know what
absolutely,
I mean?
yes.
But some people are just born with that in them, that their need to be in charge and their need to take over. And we've all worked with those actors, haven't we? And we all just kind of look at them and we roll our eyes and go, shut up and let's get on.
I've probably been one of those actors.
No, I'm a legend in my own mind. Right? I am. I truly. I mean.
Well, I think we all have to be, otherwise we would be business.
Right, exactly.
Even when we start out, it's just like we have these dreams and we have the aspirations. We go, and I grew up in a little small town in Kansas, and I wouldn't tell anybody what I wanted to do because they would have looked at me like I was crazy because they had no idea what I was talking about.
Or they would have beat you, or they would have beat you up.
Yeah, well, I was always tall, so nobody really.
Oh, right. Well, I'm not a legend because I don't have, according to Wikipedia, 16 albums.
Did you know you have been on 16 different recordings? And there's actually more than that because I know you've recently done your 3 tenor CD, and I feel like there's another project you just told me that you did where you were in the studio doing something, maybe 4 Phantoms or.
No. It was the last thing we did was the Broadway tenors.
Yes, and that's cool. I mean, why don't you tell us a little bit about Broadway tenors?
Well, I started this back in 2000. I got the idea of after the 3 tenors, Pavarotti, Domingo, and Carreras, and I said, well, why don't we do something similar with 3 good-looking Broadway leading men doing the best of Broadway. So. I started that with my friend Betsy Friday, and we've been doing that since then. With 9/11, and everything kind of came to a grinding halt. So it's been a slow slog, but we do probably 10 to 12 concerts a year.
That's amazing. And you know what I love about that is it's something that even, I think. Even growing up, I think my vision of what it would be like to be on Broadway is that I was always in a Broadway show. And that's just literally like next to impossible for 99.9% of all human beings.
Yeah, there are those people that just go from one Broadway show to the next, but it's not, you look at someone like Nathan Lane, but he has been able to go from one show to the next, but that's also because he has done film and television or Kristen Chenoweth. She could be working on Broadway every day of the year if she wanted to. But I have to tell you, you get to a certain point, and as much as I love doing what I do, you get to a certain age, and it's like that 8-show-a-week slog can be a little exhausting. And I look at, I live in Las Vegas now, and I go back to New York, and I see friends coming out of stage doors, and they're all kind of like, it's like, oh my God, we have to do another one tonight. So the concert world has really opened up to a lot of Broadway people, and it's a great way to keep doing what you do without doing 8 shows a week.
Yeah, but you still do shows like Chicago, right?
I was in Chicago for 3.5 months last summer. I just did 3 weeks on the tour.
How many times have you gone out to do Chicago? Because you're like the replacement guy for Billy Flynn all over the world.
I have lost count at this point, because I took out the second national tour, then went back to the Broadway company, and I probably hold the record for the doing, with playing Billy, but I really have no idea what that is at this point.
Oh my God, we should sit around one day and like drink some wine and count how many shows you've done in Chicago.
I don't think we could, because we're going back to cities that we were at, and I don't remember I've been there.
And that's the truth. That's the thing about being on the road, right? Like you just are like, I've never been here. I actually forgot to tell you this, but somebody was like, "Oh, have you been to Vancouver before?" Because we're in Vancouver right now,
which I love. I was there with, I think it was either Chicago or Anna Get Your Gun, one of the two.
Well, and I was like, yeah, I've only been here one day when I was like I was getting on a ship, and like I was here for one day. Right. And then I was like, oh no, I was here on tour once.
Tour, right?
I forgot completely.
It becomes a blur. And time-wise, it's like I was only out on this last tour for 2 weeks, and it felt like we were there for 3 months, because it was Chicago's. I've been doing Chicago on and off for 20 years, and so now the tour is at the point where they're trying to squeeze in 3 cities in a week. Now, when you're traveling, when you're doing a show, traveling the next day, doing a show that night, and then traveling the next day, maybe that is your day off, maybe that's not. 2 weeks turns into an eternity.
It certainly does. It really does. Like, you have to get on that bus after a show and drive. Oh my God, that is the hardest.
It is. I did my first sleeper bus, where it's like you're on a rock and roll tour. So you get on the bus in your jammies, and you actually have a bunk. There are 12 bunks on the bus, and if you're lucky enough, you go to sleep, and then you wake up in the next city. And then I had one of those, and in Des Moines, we got in about 5 a.m, and I was being picked up at the hotel at 7:30 that morning to go out and do an entire morning of press for the show.
No.
Then I went back to my hotel and slept.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Well, one of the things that I love, I've seen you do Chicago a couple of times. I've never got to see you do The Phantom, which is my favorite show, because that was one of the first shows I ever fell in love with. That's the thing, people. Like, you think like you're like, oh yeah, I got this. I could do Phantom of the Opera, and then they go, can you learn it in German? And I was with Brent when when you were getting prepared for that, and you were stressed out about learning that show in German.
I know what it's like, because
I do
worked over there. Yeah.
I did a show, but all of our dialogue was in German, and our songs were in English, which made it so much easier. But I'm telling you, because you could just learn your one line phonetically, and that was the weirdest experience, walking on stage and saying my first line, and then the audience laughed, and I had no idea what I just said. Because I had to learn the role. Literally, like I got a call on the Friday night after the show that said, "You're doing the matinee tomorrow," and I was like, I threw up all night. And how do you,
Right.
because I had to speak German in front of 2,500 people the next day.
I know, it's frightening. Listen, but the thing is, they have such wonderful dialect coaches over there, and they,
Yes.
we worked it every day, and it. So when I went out, yes, listen, as far as I was concerned, I was doing a brilliant job. But of course, I was always getting little notes because German is so specific.
It is.
And the audiences over there are really more interested, if you're not German, they're more interested in your dialect than they are in your performance. And that's the thing, when you're doing something in a foreign language you don't speak, if for whatever reason you go up, you can't just ad-lib.
Yeah, it's
Right,
true.
it's
It's
true.
very true.
You just, maybe you can scat, but that's about the best you can do. And scatting in Phantom really doesn't.
I would pay good money to see you scat in Phantom.
Right.
So
Hey, I'm working on it. Okay.
So one little interesting tidbit.
My new career.
One little interesting tidbit about Brent is that he did 2 tours with Kathy Rigby, who nobody really from our generation, we just think about Kathy the gymnast. But Kathy's actually a brilliant performer. And you did Annie Get Your Gun and Peter Pan. And I saw you do Peter Pan, I think 6 times with her. And just so you know, guys, I just need to tell you, I was in LA, I was at La Mirada, then you guys played the Pantages, and then you were out somewhere and we went to see you somewhere else too. But you guys, I just have to tell you, just to see a real actor and a phenomenal singer play so many different roles. I've seen clips of him playing the Phantom, which is brilliant. I've seen him do Chicago and Annie Get Your Gun. And not Annie Get Your Gun, Peter Pan. And, there's something really just fun about seeing you, my wonderful friend, transform into these amazing characters. And sometimes it makes me look back at my career as a performer and being like, dude, you had no clue. You had no clue what you're getting into. Levi, you had no clue what you were supposed to do.
Unless you grew up with family in this business, you don't have any idea what this business is.
It's true.
You go up on stage and you think, oh my God, that looks like fun. That's glamorous. You don't know the backstage slog that you have to go through and everything. It's not glamorous at all.
It's not. It's sweaty and gross, and you have tape stuck to your head, and makeup, and your costumes are tight, and it's just not glamorous at all.
No.
Unless you're Kristen Chenoweth, then everything is just glamorous.
I'm not sure. And there's all. And we're human living beings, so there's always something wrong. Whether you have sinus problems or whether you have joint problems or this and that, something you're always working around. And so those times where you just have a magical show are so rare.
It's very rare.
That's true.
It's you're always working.
There are so many things that we would want to ask you because you are a legend, but more importantly, you've been really smart about your business. You've been really, you've done the career and not the gig. So I just talking about that and trying to figure out, well, hey, what was your most fulfilling role? And we were just talking about moments, and it's rare that you have your moments. So what was one of those moments that you can remember in the role that you thought was it?
Well, the first thing I did was the revival of West Side Story in 1980. And I was cast, I'd only had 3 years of dance training, but I was cast as one of the Jets. And then I did Tony for the last 3 months of the run. And I just remember one of those performances that I just talked about, one of those performances where everything was perfect was when I was in the first week that I went on. Mary Elizabeth Mastrantonio was the understudy for Maria, and I was the Tony understudy. And so I was going on because Ken Marshall had gone off to do this miniseries of Marco Polo. And so we were doing the balcony scene And I came off from that, and it was just like, I didn't remember doing it because it was kind of an out-of-body experience.
Mm.
You know?
Yes.
Just perfect. And it wasn't, you weren't thinking about it when you were doing it. It was just happening.
Right.
Wow.
Right.
Yeah. And you know, there are some other, I mean, another incredibly special show for me is Grand Hotel, because I went into that 6 months after it opened. And but then ultimately it was kind of a career, I don't know, can you say that, career defining moment for me at that point, because I've been working and doing a lot of stuff, but it was like I just kind of moved from a juvenile into the leading man category at that point.
Well, I think for you, would you say that, like, I mean, that Tony performance with you and Michael Jeter is one of my favorite, and I remember when it happened that, like, I was having, like, you know, a musical theater orgasm in my living room watching that happen, and I had it recorded, and I watched it over and over and over again. Never would I have ever thought we would become such close friends.
Yeah. It was, you know, because leading up to that, I found out a week before it was happening. They came to me and said, "We want you to do the Tony Awards." I said, "Oh yeah, okay, sure, fine."
Oh, just nonchalantly.
Sure,
yeah, I'll do that.
Yeah, well, of course you want me to do the Tony Awards. Yeah, so, you know, and that was the first time I'd ever done the Tony Awards. So I had no idea what to expect, and it was.
Oh, right, the running and the people down the hall.
You know, you're on the bus. You get off the bus. You're backstage waiting, and it was the same year of Aspects of Love. Michael Ball was in the alleyway smoking a cigarette. You know, and it was like, and Kathleen Turner was introducing us, and it was just like, go. It's anything could happen. You could fall on your ass. Anything is possible on live television like that. And it stopped the show. And then we piled back on the bus, and Michael Jeter won the Tony for Best Supporting Actor. And we watched his acceptance speech on the bus. And it was just one of those incredible, magical nights in the theater.
There's something about that song where, like, it just, I don't know, just the constant Charleston that's happening, and it just never stops, and you're like, and it's just how that show builds, and how he just completely stole, like, just took that number to another level with all of his comedic acting and falling all over the bar, and just
physicality was just, it's unmatched by anybody, you know. And it doesn't mean that I just saw that they did a revival at Encores, which was wonderful. And it was the first time that they have done a revival here. They've revived it twice in London since I did it over there in 19, whatever it was. But it's the first time that somebody has attempted to do it here. And it's such a wonderful show. And Tommy had such a great vision for it. You know, and Nikki Harris worked on that, and, you know, helping choreograph all of that movement, because the show never stopped. There was always something happening.
Wow.
Which is kind of a metaphor for Grand Hotel. People come, people go, and it's that constant, it was beautiful.
We've talked about moments. So what about roles? Like the guy, the role,
No, what I loved doing more than anything was Arthur in Camelot.
Really?
That's a surprising answer.
Oh my God. It's so, you know, you start out, you know, as a teenager.
Yeah. Oh, yes, you do.
It's an incredible emotional arc that character has, age-wise and emotionally. And no, that is probably my favorite role of all time.
because of the journey and the arc.
Yeah,
I have never seen
the story and the beautiful, and it's such a gorgeous score.
I mean, Lerner and Lowe, you can't beat it.
I know, right?
Really beautiful.
I'm kind of tearing up just talking about it.
Really? Well, you want to hear something really lame? Is I've never seen Camelot. I don't know any music from Camelot. I don't give a fuck about Camelot. I'm just kidding. It's just a chorus line. It's just a chorus line reference. But the funny thing is, the only thing I know about Camelot is the 16-bar song I had to sing on a cruise ship.
Stop.
Like, literally, that's the only thing I know about Camelot. So you're going to have to educate me on some Camelot, and you're going to have to...
Lowe is classic. It's the classics. What is wrong with you young people today?
She's a year older than me, please.
I don't even care. I teach, and what I hear from my students are, I love contemporary musical theater. I'm like, you need to visit some Lerner and Lowe.
Well, they know Legally Blonde on.
That's
my God, that's so true.
You know,
no idea. Yes,
like these stories. It's just the story, this love affair that, and that he is willing to sacrifice and give Guinevere up because he loves her so much. And
yes, absolutely,
it's heartbreaking.
So we're having a little bit of an issue. Oh, I love that you got him. I never see you cry ever, and you talk about Camelot and you cry.
Well, I also met Bernie when we were doing Camelot.
So one of my favorite things that I like, I grew up on Mel Brooks and Carol Burnett and just physical comedy, which is why I love Michael Jeter, which is, why I also love the producers. And you got like the most amazing, to me, opportunity in the world to play the big, like, leather queen costume designer in The Producers. You were Brian, the set designer.
This is my set designer, Brian. Hello. Keep it mad, keep it glad, keep it gay. We're clever, creative, it's our job to see that everything's perfect for Mr. Dupree. It needs glamour and glitz. It needs sequins and tits. Tony.
I want to hear what it was like to work with Mel Brooks. Like, I mean, I couldn't even imagine like being on that set. And I mean, I imagine doing a musical. Do you know what I mean? Like being on stage and, he comes in and directs it and you leave. But like working with him to like shoot a movie, I mean, that is just unbelievable. Tell me all about that, please.
Well, Susan Stroman directed it, but Mel was there
But he was there the whole time, yeah.
He was there the whole time. And they just called and said, "Do you want to be in the movie?" And I said, "Yes."
I mean, don't think about that.
Right? Well, really? No, I don't want to. But I also had concerts scheduled in Barcelona at the Liceu Opera House
at
the same time that this was supposed to happen. And I called my agent in London. And I said, "Okay, listen, can we change this? Can we?" And we couldn't change the concerts. So about a month before the concerts, I called my agent and said, call them back and see, because, schedules change on films all the time. Call them back and see if there's been any change in the schedule and whether they still need somebody. And called them back, and sure enough, they changed the shooting date of that scene because it took an entire week to shoot that scene. And so I was able to do both, and I was so happy. But those are the kinds of things. Those are the kinds of things you have to keep on top of, for yourself. If I hadn't called my agent and said, call them and see if the date has been changed, it never would have happened.
Right.
You know what I mean?
It's it's understanding that you're running a business and your business needs income
all the time.
Yeah.
Exactly.
It's like when I do Chicago, I always call Duncan, who is a friend of the casting director, Duncan Stewart, who is a friend of mine, and I say, okay, I see the tour is going to Asia. I'd like to go to Korea, and that's how that happened. You have to, you build up you have these relationships, and
yes.
And it's not, it's saying, hey, I'm available and I'd like to do that if you need somebody. You know
yeah,
what I mean?
absolutely.
Because, especially living in Las Vegas now, it's kind of out of sight, out of mind.
Right.
So
And
you have to constantly remind people.
you had an agent, so you didn't just trust that the agent was going to do it. You took the initiative and you said, can you see, a lot of people, when they get agents, they're like, oh, they're working for me.
Yeah.
You know, so again, it's like the follow-up. Your gut also said, hey, can we find this out, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
and I go to the Equity website and just see what the EPAs, see what is up, see what is coming up in see what they're casting.
right.
Just to say, oh, that's happening. That is a possibility. Then I call my agent and say, have you submitted me for that? Which 9 times out of 10 they have.
Right.
Because that's what they do.
Yeah.
I had gotten a call about a tour that's going out, a national tour that's going out. It's going to be out for a year. And timing wise, it doesn't work out for me. You know, I can't be away for a year right now. And with the 4 Phantoms happening and things that are going on, these concerts that are coming up, I can't commit to a year. So I passed on that, even though it's something that would be interesting and fun to play. But,
are you going to tell us what it was?
No.
You'll tell me when we're off camera, right?
I'll tell you right now.
So I want to kind of dive into this, and then we'll kind of, you have to be somewhere. But you said to me one time, I said, if you could sit down with a room full of, young performers, what would you say would be like the most important thing as a performer that you could have under your belt, like a skill or something? And you said to be prepared. You said preparedness is like the secret to your success.
Yeah.
Talk to me about how you prepare, what you prepare for, and what that word means to you and how it applies to your business, not Brent's career, but Brent's business, right? Because it isn't just learning music or learning choreography. It's like you just said, being prepared and calling your agent. It's being prepared and creating your own things. So what does that look like to you?
Being prepared. It's even nowadays, you don't necessarily have to be in New York to audition because everybody accepts videotapes.
Yes.
Now, I much prefer walking in the room and being there.
Me too.
Especially for a live show, than putting yourself on tape, because it's what the camera sees in that little square is not what a theatrical performance is.
No.
So I think it's very difficult to do an audition video for theater on tape. And I still haven't quite mastered that,
Yeah, I think it's also like the energy. Like when you walk into a room, your energy, their energy, we're mingling. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like, how do you capture that in this very isolated like camera moment? I also feel that but that is the future. That is what is happening.
But it at least can get you past, a whole long line of people. It can get them very interested to see more. And then you understand, hey, it's worth it for me to buy a plane ticket and fly to New York to go in the room for this.
Yeah. Yeah.
But even like with preparation, like preparing for an audition, what is that like for you? I mean, you still have to audition. You have done like 19 Broadway shows. You've done like 60,000 productions. You performed all over the world. You have 16 albums and you still have to audition.
You still have to audition. Sometimes you get a call. When I did Follies up at Chicago Shakespeare Festival, I just got a call from Gary Griffin, asked me if I'd come up and do Ben, and was like, yes. And then I got a call to go do La Cage out at Sacramento, and then I did it at the Signature. And of course, that's the best. Because it's like all you have the luxury of the rehearsal process to develop your character and figure out what you're doing. So many times when you go into an audition, especially for a new show, nobody knows what the characters are and nobody really knows what they're looking for.
Right.
So you have to, and sometimes you don't get the full script. You'll get a song and you'll get a scene. And so you really have to, that's where your creative juices come in, as far as, all right, who is this character that you only have a song and a scene to discover with? And, you know, it's about the repetition and going over and over it again to try and get as much out of that scene and song as you possibly can.
Wow.
And then be willing to let all of that go once you get into the room. Because if you're lucky enough that the director likes what you did, but he wants to work with you, then you have to be able to let it go, listen to what he is saying, and try and incorporate that into what your audition is.
Sorry, finish it.
It's really difficult, but usually they don't know what they're looking for either.
Right,
You
right.
know?
Or
really
they see something that they love,
yeah,
or your energy, whether it's your voice or your hair or your height or your face or your body type, and they're like, okay, we need to see if this can work. I think a lot of people walk into auditions thinking these people are my enemy, and in actuality, they are your biggest advocate at that moment in time.
If they hire you, these are the people you're going to be working with, and this is the collaborative process, and this is, you have to be able, they want to see that they can work with you.
It's interesting that you say that. Here's a question. So in your training, did you experience being able to learn that in training, or did you learn that more on the job? Like, was that something?
I think you learn that on the job more. You learn that more on the job, I think. Because going back to something I said earlier, you look at the people that are always so combative and, you know, going, no, I don't like that. And it's, so, I mean, I look at other people's interactions to see, do I agree with what the director is saying to that person? You know?
Yeah.
I think he's on the right track. So if I trust what he is saying to that person, then I can trust more what he is seeing and saying to me, seeing in me and seeing what I'm doing and how to, develop my performance. You know what I'm saying?
I do. And I think it also comes into, okay, people, this is where you're going to really learn something amazing from Brent Barrett, but he's not going to ever admit it. But Brent is one of the most humble people that I know. And he's also one of the kindest people I know. And everywhere that we go together, like, people are literally just in love with Brent. And I know you don't want to he doesn't even he's probably pissed off that I'm even talking like this about him. But I think it's a characteristic. I think it's a characteristic of understanding what humility is and understanding how, you're there to serve the creative vision of other people. And within that thing is where you find your creative fulfillment. And then you get to go off and do your other things that give you creative fulfillment that also make you money. But, when you're in a musical like Phantom of the Opera, like Hal Prince is it. Like, you're there to make his thing come to life. You're there to make, Andrew Lloyd Webber's music.
My God. You've worked with some greats.
Our opening night of West Side Story at the Kennedy Center, Bernstein conducted that.
That's crazy. That's crazy.
I look back at that and wow.
That's amazing.
But at the time,
and you've worked with Jerry Robbins and
right. Oh, Jerry, I know him.
Yeah.
But at the time, the other thing that I find is fascinating is, Leonard Bernstein at the time was he was huge. But he wasn't the historical impacted legend in 1980 that he is even now, because his stuff has lasted his music has lasted for so long, right? So it's interesting. Your people are working with people around them, and they don't realize that, this person over here might end up becoming the most number who's won the most Tony Awards in the whole world. I remember John Lloyd Young, who won the Tony Award for Jersey Boys, was my intern when I worked for the Dodgers in New York. My intern. Right? And literally he was like, I have to go to acting class. And I was like, okay.
You don't know, especially in this business, you don't know how people are going to to develop and progress and where they're going to be. So if you treat somebody like shit, then all of a sudden you're in the room and they're directing a show.
Yes.
They're going to remember.
Yes.
That is so true.
Going to.
And that's happened to me before. I mean, I was kind of a little shit back in the day, but but then again, you learn how to walk through that stuff too.
I just went to a master class not too long ago where the instructor said, I want you to look to your right and I want you to look to your left. And I want you to know that the person to the right and left of you may be one day in charge of hiring, firing, or directing you. And we were like,
yeah.
I was like, oh yeah, I mean, it's true. It's very true.
Terry Mann and I had this conversation one day about, like Robbie Marshall, who, Robbie was an underclassman at Carnegie Mellon of mine, and he had done something with Terry, and Terry was saying, yeah, all the choreographers, or the dance captains who have progressed up to, because they were always sitting back watching the masters work while we were on stage developing. So they turned into directors, and we're still doing what we do. You know what I mean?
Oh, right.
That is so true.
Interesting.
Yeah.
That's an interesting perspective.
That is a very interesting perspective.
Huh.
Yeah.
I've seen that a lot in LA, just seeing, when I was first there 15 years ago, seeing choreographers like Brian Friedman, he's a young dancer and he's amazing and he's on stage, but he's assisting the choreographers, and then all of a sudden he's choreographing a video for Britney, and then he's being given the opportunity to choreograph a stage show, and now he's and my friends Tabitha and Napoleon are the same way. They were dancers back in the day, and now they're literally creating World of Dance on TV,
right?
Because people want to invest money into people that they can trust, that have the bandwidth and the talent to really make a big project, and handle their money.
Also in LA, Dan Jenks, who produced American Beauty, who produced Milk, who produced Big Fish, these films, and also produced Big Fish on Broadway. Dan Jenks was an usher at the West Side Arts Theater when I was doing March of the Falsettos.
Wow.
Wow.
Oh, I just love that you were doing Whizzer. And that's one of my favorite. My students love it. I mean, it is freaking amazing. Okay. So I'm going to hijack this for a minute because I have to know what started you down this path. What started your dreaming? What was it?
All right. I grew up in a little tiny town in Kansas. My Aunt Alice owned a little movie theater. And I knew nothing about Broadway, but it was probably the movie version of The Sound of Music when I was 5.
Really?
Yeah. I wanted to be a Von Trapp kid.
Really? That's awesome.
I was 5 years old. It was like, oh my God. But I had no idea that you could actually do this and make a living out of it. You know what I mean?
Did you know that you could sing? At least
I had an older cousin. She was 15 years older who played the piano. She also went away and got a degree in dance. So she came back one summer and taught ballet, but I couldn't take because I was a boy.
Oh, well,
right?
Yeah.
But a couple of times I would go down and just watch them in the back, and she would after the classes were over, she would give me a few things to do, a port-de-bras, a plie and a port-de-bras, and then she would make me stand by the piano and sing. She would play song and make me sing when I was 5, 6 years old.
Good for her.
I got a guitar when I was in the 3rd grade. I got it for Christmas, and took a few lessons and started doing John Denver, James Taylor, and that kind of stuff. Right?
Oh, yeah.
And then when I was in high school, I sang in the church choir, the high school choir, and we did the first musical that the high school had ever done. We did Calamity Jane.
Calamity Jane.
Calamity Jane. And
I don't even know a single song.
I do. I know one song from it. Take me back to the Black Hills. That one. That's the only one I know.
There's the biggest song is... what is the big song I just love?
Secret Love?
Once I had a secret love that lay in the heart of me. All too soon, my secret love became impatient to be free. You know, Doris Day. Now, going back to, you know, you mentioned being humble and stuff. And you know, for New Year's, Kristen Chenoweth did her concert at the Smith Center here in Las Vegas.
And I missed it.
And when she found out that she found out I lived here, she said, well, why don't you come and do like a duet with me? And so we were trying to figure out what we were going to do back and forth. And so finally, the week before, we decided on doing the duet that actually, I think she did it on Glee from One Less Bell to Answer.
It's my favorite song and favorite episode of all Glee.
You know, I hadn't seen, we did on a clear day, You Can See Forever at Encores years ago. And I haven't seen her, I probably haven't seen her in 10 years. And, but, you know, walking in the Smith Center that day to rehearse, it was like it was yesterday, because that's the way we are in this business. It doesn't matter how long a period of time it is. You have this common bond that, you know, and she has done so much and become so successful. And she said, no, you have to do a solo too. Now this is her New Year's concert, but she's insisting that I do a solo. And I mean, you know, talking about being humble and being grateful, and she has been so successful, and yet she is that way. No, listen, none of us get everything we want in this business. There is a lot of rejection, and it's about how you handle that and move on from it. And it's like, okay, they don't want me. All right, well, who does? You just keep looking.
Right.
Keep going.
Not everyone is going to be your fan.
No.
Right.
We need to wrap this up with two things. What do you want to do in your future, and how can, like, what do you want your future to look like, and where can people see you doing what next, like what's next on your plate, kind of a thing?
Well, I have my website, BrentBarrett.com, and I try and keep that updated. It's not always updated, but yeah, that's where you can find out everything, you know, where I'm going to be and what I'm doing. What I want to do, there's a show that's been kicking around for 10 years, and there's a theater in Southern California who's interested in doing it, and I'm just keeping my fingers crossed that happens, because that's really what I want to do. And then I'm going to continue doing my concert stuff, and I'm trying to do more here in Las Vegas, so I don't have to travel as much. But that's kind of going to be, that means I'm going to have to reinvent myself a little bit, and you know, we're always reinventing ourselves.
And I will help you with the reinvention. We will take some pictures and do all sorts of fun stuff.
Yes.
Well, okay.
Do shots. Okay.
So, but you just mentioned, so what you also guys need to know is that if you love, you know, Broadway music, Three Tenors are the Broadway Tenors. Broadway Tenors. What's that website called? Is that BroadwayTenors.com? Oh, there's Bernie. He's on camera.
Somebody here?
Bernie's behind you.
Oh. Hey.
So BroadwayTenors.com. And then Four Phantoms is also another project where you and three other Phantoms go out and sing all this Angela Weber music. And
else too. Yeah.
And then so that's FourPhantoms.com. Is that what that is?
You know, I don't think we have a website yet.
Okay. Alrighty. Yeah. But you can find those dates on your website.
Yes, absolutely.
Awesome. Yeah. Well, thank you so much. And thanks, Brent. We love you so much. And that's all for our little interview.
All right, guys. Goodbye.
Bye, everybody. Thanks for watching Biz Of Show.
Thanks again for watching Biz Of Show Live with Levi Walker and Candace Donahue. If you like what you see, please share the video. And of course, join our Facebook group, Biz Of Show. Can't wait to see you inside.